Well, welcome to Family History Fanatics. My name's Devin Noel Lee, and this is my crazy husband, Andy, but he's the nerdy one. And today you are going to be learning how to use the 23andMe DNA results to build a Leeds chart. Andy, what is a Leeds chart?
So a Leeds chart is a colorful chart that is quick and easy to do, and it allows you to hopefully sort your matches into groups that ideally correspond with your grandparents.
All right. So what do you need in order to create a Leeds chart? You'd need DNA results.
Yep.
And you need them on various companies. Now, we've already done MyHeritage, I believe. And then we also have about customizing a Leeds chart. And both of those links are in the description. And so today we're going to do 23andMe. Some people feel that's a little bit different. We're just going to have a whole playlist of Leeds charts videos. And then you also need a table. Now, we hadn't failed to talk about this in a previous Leeds chart, so we're going to make sure that we say this correctly. You need to have a spreadsheet, and you're going to create, well, the spreadsheet's going to have columns and rows, and then you're going to highlight the columns and rows and put your DNA there. Now, that's about all I'm going to do for now. I'm going to let Andy take over with the demo. This is definitely a tutorial. It is meant to ask questions all the way through. So if you miss a step, you need to drop in the chat very quickly. I don't understand this. Please explain. And just put a Q in front of it and we're good to go. If you're watching the replay, absolutely put your questions in the comments and we will come back and we will answer them for you. Take it away, Andy.
So how do I add the screen?
Share.
Oh.
Share screen. Normally I'm the driver. And then you pick the one that you want to share. And then you go. And then from there, I will be in charge of switching the screens.
Okay, let me just make sure I got this the good size that it fills up all the spot. All right. So we're going to be doing with 23andMe today. And there's just a couple of, if you've done a Leeds chart before, there's just a couple of little things as far as the setup part that are a little different with 23andMe. But what you want to do is you want to go and whoever you're doing this for, do the view all DNA relatives. That's going to give you your list of people. And so I'm going to be doing this on my mom's right now.
Can you make your screen bigger?
You want it
like
bigger?
Yeah, there you go. Keep going, keep going, keep going. There you go. Awesome. And then maybe zoom in a little bit
and you
on the browser.
Zoomed in.
Yes, please. That's good.
Okay. So in this case, you can see this is just the list of people that are matching. Now, two ways you can do this. One, we've got our, and I'll zoom in there. We've got our basic chart set up here. Is I can just go and I can start typing in the names of these people all the way down on this side right here. But that's going to take a while, because I'm going to have to type in each person individually for all of these matches. Now, if you only have a few matches, then that might not take that long. If you have a couple of hundred for what we're looking at, then that might take you a while. So who are we looking at on a Leeds chart? I guess that's a question for the audience. Let's see if you've figured out which matches are we concerned with when we're creating a Leeds chart. Give me an answer in the comments below, and we'll see who's watched some of the other videos.
Okay. There were some questions already, and so I'm trying to go back and grab them. If I miss your question, just feel free to post it one more time. I think we're getting it. All right. So the answers are second and third, matches under 200. How about I put them on the screen? So Karen suggests second and third, I'm assuming cousins.
Mm-hmm.
Matches under 200 centimorgans. It's Anna Corinne. Or I am always butchering it. I'm sorry. Lisa is not descendants. Matches for your grandparents. Second cousins, and we ignore closer matches. Second through fourth. What do you think?
All right. So good answers. Susan got what the original one was. So let's talk about these answers and why we get to what this is. So I think first one is this one here, not descendants, that Lisa says. That's absolutely correct. There's no point in putting descendants on your Leeds chart because you're trying to find who's related to your grandparents, and you already know that all of your descendants are related to your grandparents. So,
okay, hold on a second. That I'm confused by that. Descendants of who?
The person you're making
you?
the Leeds chart for. So, for instance, we're making the Leeds chart here for my mom.
Okay.
So, there's no point in putting me on the Leeds chart.
Oh, okay.
There's no point in putting my brothers on the Leeds chart.
Okay.
None whatsoever, because we are all related to all 4 of my mom's grandparents.
Okay.
So putting us on the Leeds chart is going to do absolutely no good whatsoever.
Okay.
This is a case where descendants don't matter when it comes to DNA.
Okay.
They are worthless when it comes to DNA. And I know that's harsh, but just remember that. So Lisa, thanks for that, because that is a good clarification that some people get caught up on. All right. So then we have what other people are saying, second to third cousins. Somebody said through fourth cousins. We have some people that are saying certain amount, like between 490 centimorgans, what Suzanne was saying. We have less than 200 centimorgans that somebody had said. All right. So let's take a look at that. Now, the right answer is yes, we are looking for really second cousins and below to a certain extent. Now, the next question is why are we looking at second cousins to, say, third cousins, or second cousins to fourth cousins?
I'm typing that. You need to talk.
Okay. I'm going over to a tool here that's going to help us.
Okay, my bad.
So why are we looking at second to third or fourth cousins? What's special about second to third or fourth cousins?
They share your grandparents?
Okay, that's the start. They share grandparent with you.
Are they the first generation where they could possibly be distinctly different from the lines?
Yes, because
go me.
Because let's take a look over here. All right, so here is our self right in the middle. Okay. And if we're looking at our first cousins, you'll notice that our first cousins, they share grandparents with us. All right. Our second cousins, well, they share great grandparents with us, which means they only share one grandparent with us. And so if we are trying to take our matches and divide them up into people that are for each grandparent, ideally, we want to have second cousins that are only related to one of those grandparents to help out. Now you'll notice
I'm just showing on screen that we have a very smart audience. And it's okay if you didn't get the right answer. That's why you're here learning.
Yes. If you'll notice over here, we have half first cousin. Now, the whole point of a half first cousin is they only share one grandparent. So half first cousins are just as good as second cousins. And in some cases, even better because they share more DNA. Chris brought up is first cousins once removed. All right. So first cousins once removed right here, they're no good because they share 2 of our grandparents.
Oops.
But look at this. That first cousin once removed is good because they only share 1 of our grandparents. So that's something to be aware of. And I think this is why a lot of people are initially seeing second cousins, is because at second cousins, unless you have pedigree collapse, multiple relations through that, that they only share 1 great grandparent. All right. So then we get to this centimorgan thing. Now, somebody had said,
yep, I'm going to pull it up. So this was a question.
Oh, and we have a question.
Yeah, it said, Robert Bell. Is this where you're headed?
No.
Okay, never mind. Never mind, Robert. We'll come back to you. I thought I was reading his mind. I guess not.
No, you're not. Sorry. So then we get to this centimorgan questions of how much centimorgan should we look? Because if you've seen your match list, you'll notice that, hey, you probably have very few that are in the hundreds, 200s. Maybe you don't have any. And you have tons that are in the 20s, 10s, 7s, and that. So let's take a look at second cousins as a base here. We notice that second cousins share, and I'm going to write this up here. Let's see, 41 to 592, according to this. So that's a good start. In other words, we definitely don't want anything below 41 because they're not going to be second cousins. And we don't want anything above 592 because they're also not going to be second cousins. They're going to be closer related than that. But why would we want to narrow this down even more? Well, we'd want to narrow this down even more because this is still a really broad range. And as you'll notice, there's a lot of first cousins that fall into that because they start at 396. And we said we wanted to eliminate first cousins.
Oh, poor kids. We're just killing them off.
We're just killing off our first cousins. So, whoops, that's the wrong side there. So because first cousins start at 396, I'm going to write numbers.
Okay. Never mind.
I'm going to put our upper limit at 400. I'm just going to round up. Okay. So that's where that upper limit that you guys might have seen comes from, is basically if we are looking at people below 400, we have eliminated all possibility of any first cousins from that. Okay. Next then is our lower limit. Now we already said that, hey, this 41, that is second cousins. So where might we want to have this lower limit from? And in that case, what we need to do is take a look up here at this first cousin once removed, which we said was still a great thing to have if it's that first cousin once removed. And you'll notice that the lower limit there is 102. Well, the way that Dana Leeds set it up is she set it up at 90, slightly below that, so that it encompasses all of that. But that is basically roughly where those limits come in, is we want to eliminate all of the first cousins except for that possibility of this first cousin once removed right here. And so we're dealing primarily then, if we look at those ranges, we are dealing with naturally second cousins. We have some of those. We have some third cousins. There's going to be a few fourth cousins popping in there. There's the possibility of a fifth cousin. It's not a big possibility, but there's a possibility. We're going to have these second cousins once, twice, third times removed. Third cousins once, twice, third times removed. And we're also going to pull in, and I'm not doing the halves here, we're also going to pull in these people right here. Now, these people, remember, we don't want. So those are the ones to be looking out for. All of these people, though, those are all good. We like those. Those are going to be helpful to us. Okay. So what we've done with this range is we've made it so that we're going to get as many of the people that we want so that we can divide it up into grandparents with as few of the people that we don't want so that we don't confuse ourselves, hopefully. Okay. So let's go back over here. So right off the bat, I can see, hey, these are all descendants of my mom. And these are all descendants of my mom as well. Oh, we finally get to some people who are not descendants of my mom. So these are the people that we're going to want in this. Now, one of the things then that is important with Ancestry to look at is you can see that, hey, they're telling us
Ancestry,
23andMe.
Oops.
They're telling us in percentage, how much percentage they share.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been dealing with centimorgans this whole time.
Okay, so then that's this Robert's question, right?
Yes, that is. How do we get to CMs? And this is why doing it by hand, and by that I mean writing in the names of everybody, writing down their CMs here is going to be very time consuming, because on 23andMe, in order to get to the CMs, let me go out of this and click on one of these people. Maybe if I can get out. We're going to go into a specific person, scroll down and view the DNA details, and then we get how much centimorgans they have.
So Suzanne seems like she knows the answer. On the screen where it shows you genetic relationships, click where it says view DNA. The CMs are shown there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Awesome. Gold star.
Yes. See, here's your genetic relationship. So for each one of these, then, if you were doing it by hand, you're going to have to click, 2-3 times to get just the CMs for each one of them. If you want to do a quick math calculation, you can roughly use 7,000 and times that percentage by 7,000. So for instance, we'll go down to 4.45, and let me pull up my calculator.
Greg, what's the answer?
7,000 times 0.0445 is 311.5, which was roughly 332. So it's not going to be exact, but if you want to do that, you can. Now, that is the hard way of getting your list together. See, we haven't even started the Leeds chart. So the easy way, easier way, maybe, is down at the bottom. There is a little link that is download your DNA relatives data. You're going to click on that. It's going to prepare it, and then it's going to give you this link again to actually download it. I think it might be something different because I've already downloaded it. So that might just take a minute or two. And what you get then is you get a nice spreadsheet like this. And so I've already downloaded all of that. And this spreadsheet is, probably going to be 2,500 lines long or so, maybe longer, depending on how many matches you have. But what it is organized by, unfortunately, is it's organized by segment. So you can see here, I match my mom on chromosome number 1 from this to this. And I can see all of the people that match her by segments. We don't want segments. We want total amount of centimorgans, right? And so we need to do a couple things. Now, first off, we need to delete all of the people that we don't care about. So I'm going to go up here first off, and I'm going to freeze this top row. So that way it stays, the headings stay the same while it moves. Okay. And then I'm going to just highlight this first one. And the nice thing is I know that all the people that are closely related are right here at the beginning. I highlight all those and I delete them. So I've now paper killed off me and my brothers and my kids and all those people that are near and dear to us.
Patricia's calling this death by spreadsheet.
Death by spreadsheet, yes. Okay, so now we have left all of the people that might fit into this. Well, we can make this a little bit easier for us because as we go down, we can see that the genetic distance gets to be much less than what we want. And that is, 90 centimorgans or so. And really, if you're looking at your spreadsheet, probably after about, 300 or 400, we'll just stop right here at 400. Because this is all together, you can see some of these people share, 50, 60 centimorgans. I'm going to just, Judy Judd here. You get to be the death by spreadsheet. We're going to kill off all of these.
60 that you're seeing.
Oh, in the genetic distance column right here.
Okay.
That is how many centimorgans.
Have sorted or no? We don't want to.
We haven't sorted yet because I'm trying to delete as much information as I don't need to begin with.
Okay.
So that way all the sorting and stuff goes a lot easier.
And then I'm going to ask you guys, this is a little confusing. So if you have additional questions, be sure to ask. But you said greater than 90, and I'm seeing Calkins, which has a 37. Are you saying you added those together mentally?
Well, Calkins, yes, I added those two together mentally, and that's going to be 53-ish or so.
Okay.
I'm just doing that for right now.
Just for temporary.
Just temporarily.
Okay. So
I wanted to get rid of the majority of it.
Okay.
But I didn't want to get rid of anything that I wanted to keep.
Okay.
So I was being safe.
But you're looking at the cluster, because it's multiple chromosomes, you're adding those numbers together.
Yes.
You're not looking for 90 or above. I was confused by that. If anybody else is confused by that.
No.
Yay.
Okay. So now we've got much less data. It's going to be much easier to work with. So what we want to do next is we're going to add in a quick column here. And we want to go through and add up for each one of these people. So for instance, here, Summer, she shares 562 chromosomes, centimorgans.
And how did you get that number? You're using Google Sheets.
I'm using Google Sheets. I'm highlighting all of the segments that she matches with.
Mm-hmm.
And down here, there's a sum that says 562.
And if it doesn't work that way, what do we need to do?
What do you mean if it doesn't work that way?
If it doesn't pop up, so sometimes when I'm doing something like that, where I highlight the little count or sum doesn't show up. So what's another thing that we can do with a spreadsheet? If maybe we're using Excel or Pages, or Google just decides not to work with us, what's another way we can
You're going to have to do formulas.
Okay, well, can you show that real quick?
Well, I'm going to do a different formula, but I was just showing that initially to help you know where things are. So what we're trying to do then next is we want to add up all of these for each person. And so we're going to put a formula in here that's going to add up all of these. So in this case, our formula starts off with equals. And now I got to try to remember what it is. Sum ifs. So we're going to sum something, ifs. And what are we going to sum? Where is my help? Okay, so first is we need the sum range. So what is the range that we're going to sum? In this case, we're going to sum this F column. Okay, that is the range we're going to sum. The next is the criteria range. Now, the criteria range is going to be this A column. Okay, it didn't let me. Oh, it didn't have a comma. That's why. All right. So see, I've got that A column. All I've done is just clicked on the columns. And then the last one is going to be the criterion. So what is the criteria for this? Well, in this case, I just want this one cell, A2. So I'm going to click on that, and you'll notice, bam, I've got 562, which is exactly what I calculated by just highlighting all of these, 562. I now want this to go through the entire sheet. So there's a little box right down here. And if you just get it till you get the plus sign, double click on that, and it's going to highlight everything up until there was a break. So see, there was a break there, and that's why it wasn't calculating that. The other thing you can do is just hold down your mouse button on that little box, and you can drag that down. And since we have deleted most of the stuff, dragging down is not going to be that hard.
So there's a question in the chat. Does this formula work on Excel? I just did a Google search, and it does say that they use sum ifs. I'm pretty sure that sum ifs is something we even used back in the old, whatever those old spreadsheet programs we talked about the last time we talked about spreadsheets. So yes, sums if does work.
Yes. And now some of the syntax might be a little different. Like instead of a comma, it might be a semicolon, but the formula in general, when you click on it, you can always search for what's the actual syntax that's used, and it'll tell you. The order of where things go might be a little different also, but in general, that formula is going to work on all of your spreadsheets. All right, so now I have the amount of centimorgans for all of them, but as you'll notice, I still have multiples of all these people, and I don't want multiples. I want to get it down to just one. All right, so sorry, the next thing I need to do is this column right now is a calculation. I'm going to highlight this column. I'm going to Control C to copy it. And now I'm going to paste it right over itself. And instead of pasting the formula, I'm going to paste the value. So what do I mean by that? Let me escape out real quick. If I look right here, all throughout this column, doesn't matter where it is, there's a formula here. But these other columns, you'll notice, hey, it's just an actual number. I want just the number in this column. So I'm going to copy this, or I'm going to highlight the column. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to what's called paste special. I want to paste the values only. Control-Shift-V. And what that is going to do...
You just put it in all one cell.
Oh, I put it all in one cell? Whoops. Yeah. I don't want it all in one cell. I want it all in the column. Now, as I look at this, you see every single one of these just has those numbers. So it's no longer a formula. It's just a number. So it doesn't matter if I delete everything else, that number is going to stay the same. So now I want to go through and I want to delete all these extras. You can go through and do that just like I did, highlight and delete. That's going to take a long time. So let's go and let's do another thing. I'm going to insert another column right over here. I'm going to use another formula. And this formula is going to be a simple if statement. If this name is equal to the cell above, I'm going to put a 1 there. Otherwise, I'm going to put a 0 there. That's it. Really simple. So you can see in this case, hey, this doesn't equal 0 because these two cells are not the same. But I just double-clicked on that box. It highlighted down. All of these other ones are, so they have a 1 there. Pretty cool. Well, now I need to get rid of all of the 1s. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to data and I'm going to create a filter. And in my filter, I am going to say, I just want, we'll keep the blanks too. I just want the 1s and the blanks. So now I just have the 1s and the blanks. No 0s. So these are all the extra ones that I don't need. Highlight the first line, scroll down, highlight the last line, right click, and delete. And they're all gone. Except they're not. I go back to my filter here, and I just want 0s. And I have this. And you'll notice here, this has all gone crazy now because the formulas don't work, but that's okay because I deleted all the extra people. So I can delete that column. I can actually delete all these other columns here because really the only thing I really care about right now is the name and the centimorgans. So I'm going to actually delete this surname column. Delete all these others. There's lots of information in this spreadsheet, and we need very little of it. This is all that we need. Dun, dun, dun. I deleted more than I needed to now. Look at that. I just realized because it only went down to like 100 there we go. Okay, so let's see what went wrong. Why did it delete all these? Aha, look at that. There's why. Because this didn't scroll all the way down. So I could always just go back and get that, which is good. Go back here, delete, data, create the filter. I want to get rid of my 0s. Okay, so now I just have the 1s. We're going and doing all of this over again to make sure we have the right information. Delete all those selected rows. And come back here, click back on the 0s. And then we can start deleting all these columns that we don't need. Remember to keep that column that has the total centimorgans.
Could you have done this part earlier?
You could have done this part earlier
Mm-hmm.
because, again, you just didn't want to delete that how much the segment shared with them column.
Right.
So now this is better.
Okay.
So now I have all of these. Now there's a couple of these people that it says share 0 with. I can just go through and delete each one of those. There's not too many of them. Delete those selected rows. All right. Nope, there's one more. Well, another one. And that has to do with whether or not you're connected with them in 23andMe. So if we take a look then
So
at
say
this,
that again.
if they have 0 centimorgans, it has to do with whether or not you've actually connected with that person in 23andMe, of whether that data is going to show up or not.
Okay, so that's one of those where you have to go and make a request to connect?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So remember, we're looking at 400 to 90. Now, I usually do actually outside of that because, yeah, sometimes you find some. So, for instance, here we have 562, we have 480. This is where it really should start. And if we go down, where should it end? Right here. We've got about 27 people that fall into that. Now, that's a decent start. And that's what we're going to use in this case. So we're just going to go straight with the 400 to 90. I'm going to copy those names. I'm going to come over here and bam, they're all in there.
Okay. So let me review real quick. I'm trying to make a little step by step. So we downloaded the match data. We visually removed matches below 40 CMs. And then we used some formulas to figure out how many CMs our matches have. We filtered out the duplicate rows because now we have that calculation, and now we're copying and pasting into a separate spreadsheet for our Leeds method.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
All right. So we're ready now to start the process of making this. Now, in this case, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at the shared match list. So we'll go to our first person here, Stephen Nelson. And I'm going to, this is, I guess, one thing to put in here is if you know the relationship of any of these people, now would be a good time to put them in. Because remember, if there's any first cousins or first cousins once removed on this line, we want to remove them. Now, I happen to know that Summer and Marcia were first cousins once removed on my mom's side. Or first cousins, I can't remember which one, but they fell into that bad list. All right. And I'm going to pretend I don't know who anybody else is, which is, for some people that might be exactly what it is. So let's go through and let's start making this. So the first thing is my first person. I'm going to make him the same color as this first column. I'm going to put an asterisk so that way I know this is my lead person. Okay. So let's go down to the shared match list. When you're looking at that individual person, you click on the Find Relatives in Common. And if you have lots of close relatives, they're going to show up initially. But you can see here, this shows how much you share or what your relationship is and how much you share and how much the other person shares and what their potential relationship is with, in this case, my mom. So we need to go to the second page to start with. So we want to look for Betty, Brett, Brandon, and Jeremy. So here is Betty, Brett, Brandon, and Jeremy. There's Brett. I'm going to copy this. Betty, Brandon, Jeremy. And all I'm doing is just coloring these as we go down.
Could you review the steps of coloring real quick? We've had a request for you to, show how did you put the color in the top and how are you copying?
So color on the top.
Column top. Include the color top. But yeah.
All it is up here, there's a fill color. And I've pre-chosen 6 colors that are contrasting, different from each other. So you'll be able to tell easily, but you can choose whatever colors you want. And so then on each one of these, you can either go and just select that color again, or if you already have one, Control C and then Control V to copy it and paste it. Control C to copy, Control V to paste.
And if you're on Mac, I believe it's Command Copy, Command C, or Command V.
Yeah. All right. So next one, let's see here. We have Melissa, Michael, and John. Here's Melissa, Michael, and John. Katie, Todd, and Gina. Katie, Todd, and Gina. Darren, Sherry, Daniel. Darren, Sherry, Daniel. KA, Alexandra, Emily, and Allison. I don't think the KA was there. That might be all. Oh, Ariane, Ronald, Amber, P. I saw that.
We do have a question.
Okay.
Are you making sure they have the DNA overlap set to yes?
No, I'm not even looking at that. I'm looking just at, and this is because this is something that's particular to 23andMe, this other column over here. I'm not going to go into that one right now because that's sort of off topic, but no, I'm not looking at that. I'm just looking at whether or not they both share DNA with this person.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's see here. Let me go to the next one just to make sure. Tiffany Larson, I think she shows up. Yeah. Okay. So on my first one here, I've got more than half of these people already colored. That should be a first clue to you that maybe this first person is not a second cousin.
Oh, so that's a bad thing.
Maybe. Maybe.
Potentially.
Potentially. We just started, so we don't know. It also could be that, nope, this grandparent, their family just had lots of people that DNA tested. It could be that too. You don't know yet. We're not worried about that yet. Let's go on to the next one.
And somebody just popped in and we just want to go ahead and make sure she's on the same page. No, you don't put the close relatives that come up on the shared list because you're focusing on second cousins, right?
Correct.
You're trying to get the second cousins. Now, in the chat, several people have said that they include the closer matches, but they don't use them in the lead sorting, just so that this will work. And that is definitely an option. And we can talk about that later, but I just wanted to loop you in because I think you popped in a little late, and that's okay.
I'll pull up my mom's list later that I've already done, so you can see some of the extra stuff that I've done. So the next one here, I added in Alexandra Orton because she popped up in here also. Okay. So the next one then is we want to go to the next person who doesn't have a color. And so that here is Terry Lynn. Although, you know what, actually, now that I think about it, if I remember right, I was right. Terry Lynn does show up there. So she does have a maroon. Okay.
So what's interesting is that you keep quote unquote making mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
But I love that you are making the mistakes because all of us do that when we start using this tool. So if something doesn't feel right or you're like, oh, wait, shoot, that's not right. It's okay. Almost all of us do that. So go ahead and take your time.
And that's one of the things with 23andMe also to realize here is these matches are not in numerical order. That's why I keep going back because I just found another one, Emily Moulton, who is right here.
Okay.
So I keep on finding these, and Allison Brigden, she was in that list also. Right there. But you'll notice here, hey, we're jumping from 196 to 175 to 3.7 to 3.6 to 3.0 to 1.8181. So it's not in any order. Now you might be thinking, well, maybe it's both of them added together. Well, the problem is here is this one's over 10. This one's only 3. This one is 5. So it's like, I have not figured out how they order these on 23andMe. My heritage does it a different way, but sort of makes sense. Ancestry just does it straight by how much you share.
Okay. Well,
so just be aware of that you may be jumping around finding, oh, wait, these other people.
We did have a question, snarky comment.
All right. I love snarky comments.
Is it me or is navigating easier on Ancestry?
Some things, yes.
And then along with that, why doesn't Ancestry let you see how your shared matches?
Match your other shared matches? I don't know why they don't. They'll probably say privacy reasons.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably what their answer is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the major downfalls. So
okay,
back here then, our green. Well, if we look down here, actually, Mitch Quick is our next one that is not. And Mitch is not related to these other ones. I do know that. So I'm going to make Mitch my green one. And I put an asterisk there. So let me go back and let me find Mr. Mitch here, who is down quite a ways. There he is. And we'll go down and see the relatives in common.
While that's loading, I wanted to say a quick shout out to our new member, Joanne. Thanks for joining our channel membership. If you are a channel member, we are going to have a bonus live stream. We're going to make sure we cover this topic and then start the next one. That's why we try to corral you early, and then we just switch to the next live stream. But thanks, Joanne. We're looking forward to having you in our community.
All right, so I've got Mitch, and I'm looking at the list here, and David D., Vincent Wilkerson, David Myers are the first three. And here is David D., Vincent Wilkerson, and David Myers doesn't show up. We're getting to the end. Let me just go to the next one. Yep, and these are all below where our threshold is. Our threshold is, I think, right around 0.9 or something like that, as far as percent. So we can take it back here and look at our list, and we can see, hey, we're actually almost done. We only have a couple of people left. We have Abby and we have Gina. So let's go back, and I'm going to actually look for Abby by just typing in her last name, because that'll make it easier. There she is. I'm going to close that spreadsheet out because I don't need it. All right, so Abby is going to be our yellow person.
And just so you know, he's putting a star on the lead person to help him know who was the top person we compared to.
Okay, well, look right here. Abby matches with Tara Lynn, which we knew was a maroon. I'm going to put this as yellow.
Okay.
And also, as we're just taking a look down here, there's Marsha, Brandon, Melissa, Katie, Daniel, Emily. There's several of these others that were yellow as well.
That is coming to Greg's question.
Okay, what's his question?
He said, I'm trying to bring it up, but it says, what if you find someone who was color coded from the previous list? Double color them? Question mark?
Right now, yes, we're just going to double color them. I'm not going to go through everything double coloring them, because remember when I said on this first one here that there was so many people colored, there was a chance that this was not a second cousin. It might have been a first cousin, which means they're going to match with twice as many people. And that is what we're seeing right here is Abby did not match with our lead person, Stephen, because they might be third cousins. So they might not share DNA. They might be fourth cousins. They might not share DNA. But Abby matches with a whole bunch of the other people that are part of this crew. Okay. Let's continue on and finish this list, and then we can talk about what to do from there.
Okay.
So Gina Moss. Gina Moss falls into that as well. Gina Moss falls into that. Okay. So in this list now, we have only gotten 3 colors, and we've covered everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Now, remember, we all have 4 grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely have not divided these up into individual grandparents yet, because we're missing a grandparent.
Mm-hmm.
That could be because that side of the family does not have very many people that have DNA tested and don't have any matches in this range. That is a possibility. And since we're only looking at like 30 matches right here, or actually 27 matches right here. That's a possibility that we're missing a grandparent completely. The other possibility also is that one of these colors or more of these colors represent 2 or more grandparents.
Okay. So that goes into Stacy's question, was how often does the split happen ideally, where it splits into 4 to 6 columns?
Well, where it splits into 4 to 6 columns, I don't have any statistics. I don't know if anybody's gathered any statistics. All of my family splits into 4 to 6 columns. And that's nice.
Not mine.
Yeah, I think hers has 1 missing. I might actually have 1 missing. Well, no, I take that back. All of mine split into 4 to 6 columns, but I still have a couple of Leeds charts that I've made on my family that don't have all 4 grandparents identified. There's 1 grandparent missing in a couple of them, even though there's extras.
Okay. So what happens if you only get 4 columns?
What happens if you only get 4 columns? Then a little bit more research, and you're probably in good luck that those represent your 4 grandparents. Okay. So let's go back to this and see what it is. If, and this is a big if you have no overlap, and if all of your lead people are second cousins, or at least in the second cousin line. So let's draw this here of what we're looking for. So if all of your lead people are in the second cousin's line, or they are this type of first cousin once removed, and if you have no overlap, then it is highly likely, highly likely that the 4 columns are your 4 grandparents. Now, do we have that here? No, absolutely not. What we do have is we do have this green that happens to be a no overlap with either one of these other 2 columns.
Okay, so overlap is the double color.
The double color.
Okay, just wanted to be clear because you had videos on overlap and that's not the same.
Not the same thing. Different overlap this time.
Okay.
So in this case, I'm pretty confident that this represents a particular grandparent and just a single grandparent, because I have some other clues here, particularly this last name.
Oh.
I know where that is, and that happens to be on paternal grandmother's side.
Okay.
I happen to know that from that last name. That is my mom's dad's mom. Okay. What I don't know then is I don't know these. Now I do have a couple of clues. So for instance, Orton, that is on my mom's side. Okay. That was the only last name clue there. But what you can do here is, since we have a lot of overlap between these 2, the double colors, is I can basically start over with those 2 colors. Either one, I can research this person and figure out whether he is a first cousin on that line or not. And if he is, then I need to redo this. Or I can just delete all this out, reset it. Same with this one. Reset it. And I can go through and start with the next person down. So I'd start with Terry Lynn in this place.
Okay.
Or the next person down. All right. Basically, until you start to get very little double colors. It's unlikely you're going to never have no double colors, because you might have some people that are actually related through both sides of their family. But if you're having lots of the double color, that almost always means that, hey, that person is in the first cousin column, not in that second cousin column.
Question. Somebody has mentioned tree collapse and endogamy. Does that mess up the leads?
Yes, that messes it up completely. Basically, everything overlaps.
Okay. So if you didn't know you had endogamy and you're working through this.
Well, I take that back. It depends on where it is. Because if it is past your great grandparents, then no. But if your great grandparents or your grandparents are related in multiple ways, then yes, it's going to mess it up.
Okay.
And it's not going to be helpful.
Okay.
But if this is isolated beyond that, which is sort of rare, with endogamy, it doesn't happen. With tree collapse, it may happen on one of your lines. And so what you'll get is almost something like what we just saw here, where, hey, you have some of these that are clearly not overlapping and all the others are overlapping in multiple ways.
Okay, question from Greg. I think this fits well here. Could you have just used that second column you'd already worked hard on creating in the first place instead of clearing away both of them?
I could have, except that second column was based off of somebody that was much further down the list here, Abby, as opposed to one of these others.
Okay.
Basically, what you're trying to get is as many matches as possible, which means the more shared DNA, the more possibility of matches, but you don't want them to be too closely related, obviously, in this case.
Okay, awesome.
So let me show you, and you'll recognize some of these names as we're looking here. This is actually the same thing completed, and I just updated it end of last year. You notice I have some of these in red highlighted. Okay. And those are people that are closer than
the second
cousins.
So this is like what some of our folks have saying, that they go in and put the closer matches in.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, I was using Stephen Nelson as my lead person on the maroon before, and it ended up that he was later on that came in, so he wasn't initially. But you'll notice he is a second cousin. So all of that maroon from the initial one really was all part of the same family.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happens that Abby was, where's Abby on here? Yep. She happens to be just slightly further removed, so she didn't share DNA with those more closely related people. The other thing that you're seeing here is I also have several people that are below that 90 listed on here.
Mm-hmm.
I think I went all the way down to 60s, and you'll notice that's just so I could get 50 some odd people to help distinguish some things out.
Okay.
So in this case, I have actually two columns that represent my mom's maternal grandmother, one for her maternal grandfather. There's another one that we're not real sure about because there's some overlap with this, but I haven't found any tree connection, and there happens to be some overlap with her paternal side as well. There's a paternal grandfather, which means that, hey, there's the paternal grandmother. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the paternal grandmother. The paternal grandfather is not found on this. This last one might be that, but this last one might be somebody else, because this last one, the only thing in there is a person with 60.
Because you went below.
Because I went below that.
Gotcha.
So remember, below that 90, there's very few of those that are second cousins.
Mm-hmm.
Or fewer of those that are second cousins.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but yeah, you can see here that I've gotten lots of different information where I've actually identified, okay, how are these people exactly related? What's their line, through all this? And here you can see some of these people are related in multiple ways. And that's why they show up on one column and also show up on the other column.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, we do have to take only a few questions and then wrap up for our next live stream. But the beautiful thing is that you have the comments section under this video to keep asking more questions, and then we can do follow-ups because there's always lots of questions with leads. So don't feel that if we don't have time to get to your question that we're not going to answer it. But if you really want to answer, make sure you get your questions in the first week after this goes live. So it's the 18th of March right now, so 7 days. I can almost promise he's going to answer this week. After that, it's just going to be when we get to them. So the sooner you get questions in, usually is the better. All right, so we're going to tackle some questions right now. If I can already sort my matches into 4 grandparents without the leads, is it still useful?
Besides just getting it sorted, I also use it as a organization tool. So for instance, I have a couple other columns here, whether I've identified them through visual phasing, whether I have used them on DNA Painter.
Oh, you're not showing that.
Oh, whoops. I'm not showing that.
You aren't.
There.
Yep.
So here I've got columns where I've identified, on these different ones, whether I've pulled that cousin match into visual phasing, whether I've pulled that into DNA Painter, whether I've identified them on other sites as well, so that I have it. So I use the chart more as a organization tool to help me navigate between different ones. So do you need to do the leads if you've already sorted your matches into different grandparents? No, not really, because that's the whole point of it, is to sort it into different grandparents.
Someone said that maybe using DNA Painter when you have things sorted, that could help maybe?
Yeah, that could help.
You would just have to know how the folks are related, or at least a cluster, and then you put one in at a time?
No, because again, if you've sorted them all by grandparents, and what you can do is you can pull all of those matches into DNA Painter under one color. And even if you don't know what the grandparent is, you can label it as that.
What I'm thinking, unfortunately, is I'm confusing the tools on DNA Painter. So you're thinking of the chromosome painter, and I was thinking Watto.
Oh, okay.
But if you knew how a few of them are related, then you're working on, then you could be working one at a time.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, you could go through and build a rough tree as far as, hey, here's a rough Watto tree that I may need for something else based on all those relationships.
Okay, here's another question. The shared CM project has a place to put percentages instead of number right under where you use the CM. So could you use that as a?
Yeah, you could do this whether you're doing it by CMs or whether you're doing it by percentages. Doesn't matter. You just have to convert, 490 into percentages, and then that's the percentages that you're looking for.
Okay. All right. Next question is, the yes/no column doesn't matter. If so, then that she's excited about that. So just confirming.
Yep. The yes/no column doesn't matter.
Okay.
For this.
For this. Here's Stacy's. If you know that you have a second cousin on different branches, would it be good to make those people the lead person? It's up on your screen. It didn't go. Go to the start. Sorry, guys. My second computer decided to crash. So that one right there was Stacy's.
All right. So if you know that you have second cousins on different branches, would it be good to make those your lead people instead of just the one with the most CMs? There's advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that they're second cousins, and so that's going to hopefully separate stuff out. The disadvantage is if they don't share as much as a higher second cousin, you're not going to pick up as many matches down below. So there's a pro and con to it.
Okay.
What I guess here's what one thing that you could do is you could do it with that known second cousin, and then after you have that, see who the highest number is that matches with that, and do it again with that person and see how much more you pick up. And that's the nice thing about it, is since it is so quick, you can do these things over and over and over again, as far as, hey, this doesn't look right. I'm going to delete it and redo it. In 15 minutes, you're done.
Okay. All right. I have more than 6 columns. Why would that be?
Probably because too many of your lead people are either third cousins or they are like second cousins twice removed, second cousins 3 times removed. And so they don't match as many people. And so you don't get everybody all together until you get, to 7 or 8 colors.
Okay. And then the last one for today, but not the last one ever. How do you handle endogamy in this instance?
Okay. So pedigree collapse and endogamy. And this is a good example here because I have some people who not too far back. Let's go look at this here. Let me show. Not too far back, there was, people that married that those families converged again. So in this case, there's 2 relationships. I go from, and on the top line is the relationship to my match. The bottom line is the relationship to my mom, or in this case, my aunt. So we have Alfred and Sarah. That's the common ancestor between these 2. Then it goes down to Hannah, then to Sarah, then to St. George, and then Melissa. And on my family side, Elizabeth, then Marion, and then Patricia. So then let's go look at the other side, and you'll notice some of the same things, except it starts with Alfred and Mary. This is a different Alfred than this Alfred, just to confuse things even more. So we had an Alfred and Mary that's the common ancestor. Their sons, Herbert and Alfred, they had a daughter, Sarah, which happens to be the same Sarah. So Herbert here married Hannah. Alfred here had Jesse, which you'll notice is not identified in here. And then we have Marion. Well, that's that Marion. So Jesse married Elizabeth. And so we have 2 relationships there. And this is a simple one because this isn't pedigree collapse really, other than, hey, we have this one family that happened to marry. What it's showing here then is when you look at this, it happens to have a relationship from the Tame side, and it has a relationship from the Orton side. And so both the maternal grandmother and the maternal grandfather are the same for a lot of these matches. I can't remember which match I was looking at right here. With pedigree collapse or with endogamy, if it is between multiple of your grandparents, then what you're going to have is you're going to have basically a big color splash thing here, which may not be helpful at all. And so that's why this tool is not good for pedigree collapse. It is not good for endogamy. What it is good for if you have endogamy and if you have pedigree collapse, and Doritha, I think, is the one who asks this. If you have that, this might be useful just in identifying those matches that are part of that and separating them out from the matches on the 1 or maybe 2 family lines that don't have that. So for instance, here, if we take a look at the quick side, other than this one match right here, none of those quicks match anything over there. So if we just assume that this maroon and yellow was all endogamous and just a big mess, let's say that there's, it looks sort of messy as it is because there's lots of color. This is useful in that, hey, I know which side or I know which ones are this quick line that is not endogamous, that does not have that. For other pedigree collapse and endogamy, it's not helpful. And so think of it more as identify which ones are part of that group so I can focus on the ones that are not part of that group initially. This is not a tool that's going to help you solve endogamous relationships.
All right. Well, that's all we have for today. You'll be able to start commenting within about 5 minutes of this video going live. And then for those of you who are hearing impaired, it takes me about a week for YouTube to process the video, allow me to chop off the intro, and then grab the captioning. So unfortunately, I haven't found a way to do live captioning for you yet, but within this next, like today and tomorrow, I'm going to have last week's streams closed captioning finally done. So that's why there's a little bit of a delay. If I could figure out that technology, I would make it faster. But thank you guys so much for joining. Make sure that you leave a comment. The comments will open in about 5 minutes under this video. We're going to switch to our channel member only link. If you haven't joined, go ahead and click the join button, and we will see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.
So.